Hey, you know what, David? We have someone whom for a very long time, and can speak to the idea that we have a people-less New York Stock Exchange. Duncan Niederauer, former head of the New York Stock Exchange, Goldman partner, an old friend. Duncan, fill us in about what it's like to be able to make it so that you can have the New York Stock Exchange run like the NASDAQ.
Hey, good morning, guys. First of all, it's been a long time, so thanks for having me on. Yeah, I think it's an historic day. As you guys know, most of the volume is already electronic. And I think this decision, as we say in our household sometimes, it really wasn't a multiple choice question. It was time to do this. I think it was the only decision to make. I think the exchange is more than prepared to do this. So I don't anticipate any issues with liquidity. Going back to Hurricane Sandy, the exchange was prepared to do this in and around Sandy and operate the contingency plan. And I'm sure that plan's even better now. So my point is, this is not a new thing that the exchange is trying. And at that time, I wouldn't describe the banks and brokers as nearly as well positioned as they are today to work remotely and work decentralized. So I would think it should be pretty much business as usual. And, unlike Sandy, where we thought we might have to do it for a couple of days, I think we should assume this will be going on for quite some time.
Well, does this mean that we can expect some things to change after we're through with this tremendous scourge where maybe people just don't come back?
It's a good question, Jim, and you'd have to ask the people running the exchange now. My view from this vantage point would be that even if it's a limited amount of the volume that doesn't trade electronically, there are moments in each day, the open, the close, pockets of turbulence where it's really valuable. So I would expect that you'll see that maybe it'll be different, but I think a lot of the people who run their business from there will come back, and I think they'll probably go back to the hybrid model that we've had. But we'll see how it goes, and we'll see how long this lasts, as you guys were talking about before I came on.
Yeah, Duncan, I mean, the question, of course, becomes how will behaviors change in general as a result of this crisis after and hopefully as soon as possible when we're through it. We just don't know. I mean, a lot of times things do go back to the way they were, but oftentimes there are moments in history that do significantly change the way business is done.
Yeah, and I think it's really too early to tell on this one because there's so many different scenarios. You could have a fairly quick V-shaped recovery. You could have a long drawn-out issue around all of this. And I think when we know a little more, we'll be able to answer that question. But you're right. Sometimes these events do create the opportunity to change a business model tied to the behaviors that you're referencing, and we'll see how that goes.
Duncan, why do you think we have such illiquidity? I've never seen the futures move 5, 7, 8 points per tick. What is going on that the equities market, I think you and I would say, is not really working?
But I think you were alluding to some of that, Jim, when I was listening to you guys just before I came on. I think a lot of the volume is what I would call either speculative in nature or the unwinding of leverage. I think people are not finding a lot of reasons to come in to the market right now. So I think you see a VIX at 65, 70, 75. That tells you all you need to know about underlying liquidity. I was very pleased to see the exchange heads collaborating and being united around keeping the markets open. I thought Mnuchin's idea was interesting. You could make a case to maybe have a shorter trading day so people had more time to consolidate liquidity and maybe think about their positions more, do some more research, not watch the screens as much. But the thing that I thought you made a really good point last week, the thing that I'm finding the most troubling, and we can look no further than this morning and overnight for an example, the overnight futures market, it just seems to be creating a lot of stress, a lot of volatility, and I don't feel like it's adding to liquidity. I don't know what you think about that, but I just think it's all over the place, and I think it's giving, people are watching the screens overnight and getting really nervous, and they're up, down, and sideways with no rhyme or reason with how stocks open.
Duncan, real quickly, also on this same subject, ETFs. I mean, when you were running the NYSE, they were coming to the fore in terms of something now that is kind of the way a lot of people invest. We're seeing some weird stuff with some of these ETFs, to put a non-technical term on it. Are you concerned at all?
I think the ETFs have become so much of the volume, we all have to be concerned, and I'm sure a lot of people will analyze that a lot more. They've become a part of so many individuals' portfolios, and when you look underneath the covers on some of these ETFs, we'll call them sector ETFs, but in point of fact, since they're cap weighted, these are really, 2 or 3 stock bets disguised as a 15 company stock portfolio. So I think those will all be looked at, and I think first things first. I think as you guys were talking about before I came on, the next few days here are all about the Senate delivering a bipartisan package we can all get behind.
Well, I know we got to go to Bob, but I just want to ask one thing to Duncan. Duncan, how can we prepare for the new world? I know we know the old world. I know that there's crying. I know people want money. I think the new world should be talked about, too, in order to give people hope. What would you want to see?
I think we've got to see a few things here coming up. I think, number one, I think the Fed and Treasury are doing everything they can. I think that's bought time for a bipartisan solution to come out of Congress, and I think they've got to deliver that ASAP. I think we have to hope that the policies we're all putting in place, the stay-at-home approach, works. The virus peaks quickly, and we can get back to business and life soon. I think we all know the Americans' collective resolve is unmatched anywhere else in the world. And when we think about it, we're not being asked for big sacrifices. This is staying at home for a while and trying to stay healthy is really not a big sacrifice. And then I hope that everybody appreciates that the medical professionals today should be thought of the way we thought of first responders after 9/11. They're today's heroes. And as you guys were alluding to, I hope the next wave of heroes comes out of the pharma industry. You can't imagine how hard they're all working together on some of these things you were referencing. And I think if we just follow the rules, we get policies we can all get behind that are bipartisan, and we just take time to get through this. I think there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic if we can turn this around quickly, given how good the environment was going into this.